When your wife sends you a photo from the airport and you realize she's been lying for a month, that's just the beginning of the nightmare. I worked as a mechanic at a large auto service shop in Denver when my world turned upside down. My name is Philip, I'm 37 years old and I was married to Sylvia for 12 years. She worked as a manager at a travel company, frequently going on business trips. That day she was supposed to return from San Francisco after a week-long business trip. At 6 in the evening I received a message with a photo. Boarding a plane, caption, finally home, love you. A typical photo, a typical message. But something made me uneasy. At our garage there was a guy named Marcus, a former programmer who left IT to work with cars. He often talked about various technical things that stuck with me. Once he mentioned metadata in photos, how they store information about the time and place of shooting. Something pushed me to show the photo to Marcus. He looked at me strangely but opened some program on the computer. "Buddy, are you sure you want to know this?" he asked, looking at the screen. My heart started beating faster. "What's there?" "This photo was taken a month ago. 23rd at 15:30. A month ago Sylvia was at home. I remembered this exactly because we celebrated my promotion that day. But the worst was yet to come. The next few weeks I started paying closer attention to her behavior. Sylvia became somewhat distant, often stayed late at work, kept her phone screen down. But I didn't say anything, planning my actions. I decided to install a tracking app on our shared tablet, which she sometimes took on trips. It wasn't difficult, Marcus showed me how to do it. But what I saw exceeded my worst expectations. Sylvia hadn't been on business trips for 2 months. She was renting an apartment downtown and spending time there with a man named Derek, an IT specialist from her former job. They were renting this place together, splitting the cost. But that wasn't all. Looking through bank accounts, I found that she was transferring money to him, our joint savings that we were collecting to buy a house. Over $30,000 in the last 6 months. During those lonely evenings when Sylvia was supposedly on business trips, I found solace in our dog. His name was Charlie, a golden Labrador I had given Sylvia for her birthday 3 years ago. Charlie was supposed to be her companion, but ironically, he became mine. Every time Sylvia left for her fake business trips, Charlie would get anxious. He would sit by the door for hours, waiting for her return. I started taking him on long walks, playing fetch in the park, teaching him new tricks. Charlie was incredibly smart. He learned to bring me my tools when I worked on cars in our garage at home. He could distinguish between a wrench and a screwdriver just by their names. On weekends, Charlie and I would go hiking in the Rocky Mountains. He loved running through the trails, chasing squirrels, and swimming in mountain lakes. Those moments became the highlight of my weeks. Charlie had this incredible ability to sense my mood. When I was stressed about work or worried about Sylvia's strange behavior, he would rest his head on my lap and look at me with those warm brown eyes that seemed to understand everything. Marcus helped me gather all the evidence. Screenshots of correspondence, bank statements, photos with metadata. But I didn't want a simple divorce. I wanted justice. I found out that Derek was married, had 2 children. His wife Jennifer worked as a teacher at a local school. She had the right to know the truth. I prepared a detailed report with all the evidence and sent it to Jennifer. I also sent copies to the management of the travel company where Sylvia worked, since she was using work resources to cover her affairs. But the main blow I prepared for Sylvia herself. I found out that she was planning to spend the weekend with Derek in that same apartment they were renting. On Friday morning, when she was getting ready for another business trip, I silently handed her the divorce papers. "What is this?" she asked, not understanding. "Metadata doesn't lie, Sylvia. Unlike you." Her face turned white as chalk. She realized she had been exposed. "Philip, I can explain everything." "No need. Derek already got fired, his management didn't approve of affairs with clients. Jennifer filed for divorce and took the children. And your company is investigating your activities over the past few months." This was true. Jennifer turned out to be a strong woman and immediately took action. And the travel company management took seriously the fact that their employee was using business trips for personal purposes. Sylvia started crying, begging, promising to change. But I was adamant. "You had a month to tell me everything when I showed you that photo. Instead, you continued lying." I took all my belongings and moved in with Marcus until I found my own apartment. Sylvia was left alone in our house, but not for long. A week later I learned that Derek had returned to Jennifer, begging for forgiveness. They decided to try to save their family for the sake of the children. And Sylvia lost her job after an internal investigation. The divorce process lasted 3 months. The most painful part wasn't the division of property or the legal proceedings, it was the fight over Charlie. "Your Honor," Sylvia's lawyer argued. The dog was a gift from my client to Mrs. Rodriguez. According to the law, gifts become the personal property of the recipient. My lawyer tried to argue that I had been Charlie's primary caretaker, that I had paid for all his veterinary bills, food, and training. We presented evidence of my daily walks with him, photos of our hiking trips, testimonies from neighbors who saw me caring for Charlie during Sylvia's absences. But the judge was unmoved. The court finds that the animal in question was given as a gift and therefore belongs to the defendant. When I heard those words, something broke inside me. I had prepared myself for losing the house, the car, even half of our savings. But losing Charlie? That felt like losing a child. The night before I had to hand Charlie over to Sylvia, I took him to our favorite spot in the mountains. We sat by a lake as the sun set, and I tried to explain to him what was happening. Charlie seemed to sense something was wrong. He kept nudging my hand with his nose, trying to comfort me. "I'm sorry, boy," I whispered, scratching behind his ears the way he loved. I tried to keep us together. Charlie had this habit of tilting his head when he was confused, and he did it then, those brown eyes searching my face for answers I couldn't give him. The handover was scheduled for the next morning at the courthouse. Sylvia arrived with a new leash, a cheap nylon one, nothing like the leather leash I had bought Charlie from a specialty shop. She looked uncomfortable, almost guilty. Charlie saw me first and bounded over, tail wagging, jumping up to put his paws on my chest like he always did. I knelt down and hugged him, feeling his warm fur against my face, breathing in that familiar dog smell that had comforted me through so many difficult nights. "Come on, Charlie," Sylvia called awkwardly. She had never been the one to call him. That had always been my job. Charlie looked between us, confused. He took a few steps toward Sylvia, then looked back at me. I could see the confusion in his eyes. Dogs don't understand divorce proceedings or legal ownership. They understand love, routine, and who fills their food bowl every morning. "Go on, boy," I managed to say, my voice breaking. "Go with Sylvia." I turned and walked away quickly, not looking back because I knew if I saw Charlie trying to follow me, I wouldn't be able to handle it. Marcus found me that evening sitting in my new apartment, staring at Charlie's empty bed that I had stupidly brought with me. There were his toys scattered around, a rope toy we played tug-of-war with, a tennis ball that was more fuzz than ball from countless games of fetch, a squeaky duck that annoyed everyone but Charlie loved. "You know she won't take care of him the way you did," Marcus said gently. "I know," I replied. "But there's nothing I can do about it." 3 weeks later I was proven right. I was at the grocery store when I saw a familiar golden shape in the parking lot. Charlie was tied to a post outside a coffee shop, alone, looking anxious and thin. He had lost weight and his usually shiny coat looked dull. I couldn't help myself. I approached him and his reaction was immediate, pure joy. He jumped up, whining with excitement, licking my hands and face. I checked his collar and found a new tag with Sylvia's phone number, but also noticed something troubling. His collar was too tight and there was a small sore where it had been rubbing. A woman came out of the coffee shop and saw me with Charlie. "Oh, are you the owner? This dog has been tied up here for over 2 hours." I was about to call animal control. My heart sank. Sylvia was supposed to be at work, but she had left Charlie tied up outside in the cold Colorado weather. This wasn't the loving care a dog deserved. I wanted to take him home right then and there, but legally Charlie belonged to Sylvia. Instead, I bought him a proper lunch from the pet store next door and sat with him until Sylvia showed up. When she finally appeared, she looked annoyed to see me. "What are you doing here?" "Someone called about a neglected dog," I lied smoothly. "Charlie was tied up here for hours." "I just ran a quick errand," she said defensively, but I could smell alcohol on her breath. It was only 2 in the afternoon. Charlie was reluctant to go with her, keep looking back at me as she pulled him away. It was heartbreaking. Over the next few months, I heard through mutual acquaintances that Sylvia was struggling. She had moved to a small apartment that didn't allow pets, so Charlie was spending most of his time at a friend's house or tied up outside various establishments. The active, happy dog I had raised was becoming anxious and depressed. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I received an unexpected call from Sylvia. "Philip," her voice was different, tired, defeated. "I need to talk to you about Charlie. We met at a neutral location, the same park where Charlie and I used to play fetch." She brought him and he immediately ran to me, tail wagging so hard his whole body wiggled. He looked thin and his eyes seemed sad. "I can't take care of him properly," Sylvia admitted, not meeting my eyes. "My new apartment doesn't allow dogs, and I'm working 2 jobs just to make ends meet. He's not happy with me." I wanted to say, "I told you so," but seeing Charlie's condition broke my heart too much for petty satisfaction. "I know you love him," she continued. "And he clearly loves you more than me. He never bonded with me the way he did with you. Maybe you should have him." I knelt down and Charlie immediately pressed against me, seeking comfort. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'll sign over ownership to you," Sylvia said quietly. "No money, no conditions. Just take care of him the way I never could." 2 weeks later, Charlie was home where he belonged. The reunion was everything I had dreamed of during those lonely months. He ran through the house, checking every room, reclaiming his territory. That first night, he slept pressed against my legs as if afraid I might disappear again. It took months for Charlie to fully trust that he was home for good. Every time I picked up my keys, he would get anxious, thinking he might be abandoned again. But gradually he returned to his old self, playful, confident, loving. We resumed our mountain hikes and Charlie's coat regained its shine. His eyes bright with joy again. Neighbors who had seen him during the difficult period commented on the transformation. "He's like a completely different dog," one of them said. The divorce process had taken everything from me: my marriage, my trust and love, most of my savings, and nearly a year of legal battles. But in the end I got back the one thing that mattered most: my best friend. Today, 2 years after the divorce, Charlie and I have built a new life together. I still work at the auto shop, Marcus is still my closest human friend, and I've started dating someone new, a veterinarian named Sarah who loves dogs as much as I do. She and Charlie bonded immediately, which I took as a good sign. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if I hadn't asked Marcus to check that photo. Maybe I would never have learned the truth. Maybe I would still be living a lie and Charlie would still be neglected and unhappy. Sylvia moved to another city. I heard she works as a waitress at some cafe. Derek and Jennifer stayed together, but their marriage barely survived. Marcus got promoted to shop manager, and we often joke that he should have stayed in IT. He would have made more money, but he's happier working with his hands. Charlie is now 8 years old, still energetic and loving life. He has a new favorite toy, a stuffed mountain lion I bought him after one of our hiking trips where we actually saw one in the distance. He carries it everywhere, and it's become as raggedy as his old tennis ball used to be. Every evening, Charlie and I sit on the porch of my small house. Yes, I managed to buy a place with a yard, and I think about how much my life has changed. I lost a wife who didn't love me, but I kept the one who loved me unconditionally. I learned that trust, once broken, can never be fully repaired, but I also learned that some bonds, like the one between a man and his dog, are stronger than lies, court orders, and human selfishness. The funny thing about metadata is that it doesn't just exist in photos. It exists in relationships too. There are timestamps on every moment, every choice, every act of love or betrayal. Sylvia's metadata showed lies, manipulation, and selfishness. Charlie's metadata showed loyalty, love, and an unbreakable bond. I chose to follow the right data. Metadata doesn't lie. Unlike people. But unlike people, dogs don't need metadata to prove their love. They show it every single day. But there's more to this story that I haven't shared yet. Something that happened just last month that showed me how deep Sylvia's deception really went. I was cleaning out the garage when I found an old box of Sylvia's belongings that she had forgotten during the move. Inside were letters, actual handwritten letters from Derek dating back almost 2 years. 2 full years before I discovered the metadata lie. These weren't just love letters. They were detailed plans about their future together, discussions about divorcing their respective spouses, and worst of all, conversations about getting rid of Charlie. "Your husband is too attached to that dog," one letter read. "When we're together, we can't have that constant reminder of your old life. Maybe we should consider rehoming him before you leave, Philip." My hands shook as I read those words. They hadn't just planned to steal my wife and my money, they had planned to take away my best friend too. Charlie was sleeping at my feet as I read this, completely unaware of how close he had come to being abandoned. There was more. Bank statements I had never seen before showed that Sylvia had opened a secret credit card and maxed it out buying expensive gifts for Derek. A watch worth $3,000, weekend trips to luxury resorts, even payments for Derek's children's private school tuition. She had been living a completely double life, playing the role of Derek's sugar mama while I worked overtime to save money for our dream house. But the most shocking discovery was a pregnancy test box dated 6 months ago. It was positive. My mind raced as I tried to process this information. Sylvia had never mentioned being pregnant. Had she miscarried? Had she terminated the pregnancy? Or worse, had she been pregnant with Derek's child while still sleeping with me? I called Marcus immediately. He came over within an hour, bringing Chinese takeout and beer, ready for another evening of helping me process Sylvia's betrayals. "You need to stop torturing yourself with this," Marcus said after I showed him the letters. "It's over. You won, remember? You got Charlie back, you kept the house, and she's working as a waitress in some dive bar in Arizona." But I couldn't let it go. The pregnancy test haunted me. I needed answers. Against Marcus's advice, I hired a private investigator named Tom Rodriguez, no relation to my ex-wife despite the shared surname. Tom was a retired police detective who specialized in post-divorce investigations. What Tom discovered over the next 3 weeks was more disturbing than I could have imagined. The pregnancy test, Tom discovered, was related to the affair with Derek. She had gotten pregnant and quietly had an abortion without ever telling me. The medical records showed she had listed Derek as her emergency contact. She had been planning her exit strategy from our marriage for years. "Your wife planned this very carefully," Tom explained during our final meeting. "The affair with Derek wasn't just about love, it was about financial security and excitement. She's probably already moved on to someone else in Arizona." Tom was right. Through social media investigation, he had found evidence that Sylvia was already in a relationship with her boss at the restaurant, a married man with 3 kids. The pattern was repeating itself. But the most devastating revelation came when Tom showed me security footage from a kennel facility. "I think you should see this," Tom said, pulling up a video on his laptop. "This is from Happy Paws Boarding, about 2 weeks before you caught her with the metadata." The footage showed Sylvia dropping off Charlie at the kennel. But this wasn't a normal boarding situation. The timestamp showed it was a Tuesday afternoon when she was supposed to be at work, and I was supposed to think Charlie was home safe. In the video, Sylvia was arguing with the kennel staff. The audio was poor, but Tom had enhanced it. She was trying to surrender Charlie permanently. "I can't take care of him anymore," her voice came through the speakers. "My husband won't notice if he's gone for a few days, and by then I'll be moved out." The kennel worker was shaking her head. "Ma'am, this dog is microchipped and registered to your husband. We can't accept a surrender without his consent." "But I'm on the ownership papers too," Sylvia argued. "Yes, but both owners need to sign for a surrender. It's policy." The footage showed Sylvia storming out, leaving Charlie confused and whimpering in the kennel's lobby. A worker had to coax him back to a holding area while they called the number on his collar, my number. I remembered that call now. They had said Charlie had been brought in as a stray, and I had rushed over to pick him up, believing Sylvia's story that she had accidentally left the gate open. She hadn't accidentally left anything open. She had tried to abandon Charlie permanently, and only the kennel's policies had saved him. Watching that footage, seeing Charlie's confusion and fear as his supposed owner tried to abandon him, broke something inside me that I didn't know could break twice. The betrayal wasn't just about our marriage, it was about the innocent creature who had loved us both unconditionally. That night, I sat on my porch with Charlie, who was now completely recovered and happy, and I made a decision. I needed to do something that would ensure Sylvia could never hurt anyone the way she had hurt me, Derek's family, and Charlie. I compiled everything, the original metadata evidence, the bank fraud documentation, the letters revealing years of affairs, evidence of the attempted dog abandonment, and Tom's comprehensive investigation report. But instead of seeking personal revenge, I sent it all to the FBI. Financial fraud across state lines is a federal crime. Using joint credit cards to fund affairs while hiding assets during divorce proceedings is fraud. And attempting to steal and abandon a microchipped dog could be considered theft and animal cruelty. 6 months later, Sylvia was arrested in Arizona on multiple federal charges. The investigation had uncovered that she had been running financial schemes on her new boyfriend, using similar tactics she had used on me. The trial lasted 8 months. I testified via video call with Charlie sitting beside me. When the prosecutor asked about the impact of her crimes, I focused not on the money or the betrayal, but on the attempted abandonment of Charlie. "Your Honor," I said, looking directly at the camera, "she didn't just steal money or break marriage vows. She tried to abandon a living creature who trusted her completely. That shows a level of callousness that goes beyond normal infidelity." Sylvia received 3 years in federal prison for fraud and conspiracy charges. The judge specifically mentioned the attempted dog abandonment as evidence of her character during sentencing. But the story doesn't end there. During the trial, I reconnected with Jennifer, Derek's ex-wife. She had successfully divorced Derek and received full custody of their children. She was now working as a school principal and had started a support group for victims of infidelity. "You know what's funny?" Jennifer told me over coffee after the trial ended. "Derek contacted me last month. He wanted to get back together, Said he had made the biggest mistake of his life. What did you say? I told him the truth, that I'm happier now than I ever was with him. That my children are better off with one honest parent than two parents where one is a liar. Jennifer and I became friends, bonded by our shared experience but not romantic partners. We both had too much healing to do for that. But our friendship was valuable. Two people who understood the unique pain of discovering that the person you trusted most was living a complete lie. Meanwhile, Marcus had started dating a woman named Lisa who worked at the veterinary clinic where I took Charlie. She was a vet tech who immediately fell in love with Charlie's gentle personality. You know, Lisa said during one of our group dinners, Charlie's behavior when you first got him back was classic signs of abandonment trauma in dogs. The fact that he recovered so completely shows how much he trusts you. Dogs don't forgive easily when they've been betrayed. It was true. In the months immediately after getting Charlie back, he had exhibited anxiety behaviors I had never seen before: destructive chewing, excessive barking when left alone, and an almost desperate need to follow me everywhere. With patience and consistency he had overcome these behaviors, but it had taken time and a lot of love. Sarah, my veterinarian girlfriend, had been instrumental in Charlie's recovery. She had recommended a canine behavioral therapist and had worked with us on rebuilding Charlie's confidence. She never pushed for a relationship with me, she simply showed up, consistently and honestly, until I realized I could trust again. Our relationship developed slowly, built on transparency and shared values. Sarah had been through her own betrayal. Her previous boyfriend had cheated with her best friend, so she understood the importance of rebuilding trust gradually. The thing about betrayal, Sarah told me one evening as we watched Charlie play with her own dog, a rescue named Luna, is that it teaches you what real love looks like. Real love is consistent. It shows up. It doesn't lie or manipulate or abandon. 2 years after Sylvia's sentencing, I received a letter from her in prison. She was seeking forgiveness, claiming she had found religion and wanted to make amends. The letter was full of excuses and self-pity, ending with a request for money for the prison commissary. I showed the letter to Sarah, Marcus, and Jennifer. They all had the same reaction: this was just another manipulation attempt. Sylvia hadn't changed, she was just trying a different strategy. I wrote back a single sentence: Charlie is happy and healthy. That's all you need to know. That was 3 years ago. Sylvia was released from prison 6 months ago, and I heard through Tom, who still occasionally updates me, that she moved back in with her mother in Ohio. She's working at a grocery store and is prohibited from opening credit accounts due to her federal conviction. Derek, according to Jennifer's last update, never recovered from the scandal. He lost his job, his marriage, and most of his friends. He's working in tech support now, living in a studio apartment, and paying substantial child support and alimony. As for me, life has never been better. Sarah and I got married last year in a small ceremony in the mountains where Charlie and I used to hike. Charlie was our ring bearer, proudly carrying the rings in a special pouch attached to his collar. He's now 10 years old, showing some gray around his muzzle but still energetic and loving life. We bought a larger house with a huge backyard where Charlie and Luna can run and play. Sarah is pregnant with our first child, a daughter we plan to name Hope. Charlie seems to sense the pregnancy and has become even more protective of Sarah, following her around the house and resting his head on her growing belly. Sometimes I think about the man I was before all this happened, trusting to a fault, working overtime to save for a dream house with a woman who was planning to abandon me and our dog. I was naive, but I wasn't wrong to trust. I was just trusting the wrong person. The metadata taught me to verify, but Charlie taught me that some things don't need verification. Love, loyalty, and devotion show themselves through actions, not words. Every morning when Charlie greets me with pure joy, every evening when he settles beside my chair, every hike when he looks back to make sure I'm following, that's metadata that matters. Sylvia's metadata showed lies, betrayal, and cruelty. Charlie's metadata shows love that has never wavered, not even when he was confused and abandoned and didn't understand why. I chose to follow the right data, and it led me to a life I never could have imagined, a life built on truth, love, and the unwavering loyalty of a dog who never learned how to lie. Thank you for watching the video to the end. Maybe YouTube will no longer offer you my channel, so subscribe to it by clicking subscribe on the right under the video to receive new interesting stories. Also on the right of the video there is a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to, and you can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.